Hey guys, so this is episode 2 of my chaos blanket. So if you're new here or you don't know what a chaos blanket is, it is basically a blanket that is made, and every single day you pick a colour that you've chosen, and then you pick a stitch, and then you roll a 6-sided die. So pretty much determines on how many rows you do of that stitch and of that colour. So I started mine yesterday and I ended up getting the moss stitch. And you normally only with this chaos blanket, you normally only supposed to use one colour for the entire stitches. But the moss stitch, people have said, and from other people that has done moss stitches in the past, it looks better if you use 2 different colours. That way it actually shows the moss stitch. So I started mine yesterday, so this is what mine looks like. This one is going to go to my daughter, and then once this one is finished, I'm going to be making another one for whenever I decide to give my daughter a sibling. I'll give it to my next child. But for now, this one's for my daughter. So this is what it's looking like at the moment. So I ended up getting pink and purple for the moss stitch yesterday for episode 1. I was going to have Indiana pick the colour and the stitches and roll the dice today for episode 2, but she's gone away with my parents to Chipmunks. So I'll see if she wants to do that tomorrow. Because I don't want to double up on these, I'll go back to back with the stitches and the colours. I've kept the colours just sitting, and the colours and the stitches sitting on their containers. So I don't accidentally pick them again, so I'll have double up. But once I've picked the colour and the stitches, then for this episode, then the stitches and the colours from the last episode I'll put back in the containers. So, no more chatting, and let's start off with picking the colour first. I'll put them in different containers, so I don't accidentally keep picking the same colour. There's more to like shuffle and to pick from. Alright. So let's see what colour I've gotten today. Cream. Okay. That's actually going to be really, really nice next to that purple, I think. So I've got cream for the colour. So the colours from yesterday are going back in. Alright. Now let's find out what stitch I need to use for cream. Okay, this is another stitch that I've never tried before. The Zelvi. I can't really read that, but that's the stitch what I've got. So I'm actually going to look up how to do that stitch. But I've got to do that stitch with cream. So stitch going back in from yesterday. So I've got cream and that type of stitch, which I think is called I'm going to call it the S stitch. So now I'm going to roll the dice to find out how much rows of the S stitch I've got to do. Ooh, 5. So I have to do 5 rows of the S stitch in cream. So let's go. I'm actually going to type up how to do this stitch because I've never done it before. So I'll go get my colours, look up the video of how to do this stitch because I've never done it before, and do the 5 rows of it. Okay, so I've started my 5 rows of this stitch. I've actually figured out what the name of the stitch is called. It's called the grid stitch. But I've completed 1 row of this stitch, and I've got to have 5 rows. So I've completed 1 row of this stitch, and I'm already working on the 2nd row of this stitch. So that's kind of what it looks like at the moment. And I think to make it, because if I get like the granny stitch or the single crochets or whatever, I've got to figure out how to make this like even, which I'm not going to make it even with this colour. I'm just going to leave it as it is once I finish with the 5 rows. But with the next colour, I've got to try and make the stitches even, because this stitch is really, really easy to do. All it is a single crochet and then a double crochet in the exact same stitch, and then you skip a stitch and then you do it in the next stitch and repeat and repeat and repeat. So maybe if I get like single crochets or granny stitches or whatever, I might like do single crochets in every single stitch. The only thing is mish like a stitch, because like it makes up with the stitches. I'm not 100% sure what I'll do with the next stitch that I get. But this is what it's looking like at the moment, with only 1¼ row of the 5 rows. This is definitely going to add a little bit of, because it is 5 rows and it is like a bigger stitch, it's going to add a bit of length to the project, because this was the moss stitch was pretty much all it was single crochets. That's basically what the moss stitch was. Single crochet, miss a row, single crochet, miss a row. That's basically what the moss stitch was. So this is a single crochet and a double crochet, so it definitely adds a bit of height to the stitches. So this is definitely going to add a little bit of length to my project. But I'm going to continue on, and I'll give you another update when I'm further along or when I have completed the 5 rows. Alright, so I'm back, and I'm on my last row now, finishing off my last couple of stitches. So I'm on the last couple of stitches on round 5. So I'm completing round 5 now. And as you can see, I'll show you once I fasten off in a minute. But as you see, it definitely has put some length on the blanket for episode 2. One more stitch to go. Okay, now I'm going to fasten off. And for every single row of these chaos blankets, I'm actually going to be using the exact same size hook, which is a 4mm crochet hook. So I'm using that for every single row of this chaos blanket. So this was 5 rows of the square stitch in colour cream. So that's what the blanket's looking like at the moment, in the cross stitch in colour cream. So I've done 5 rows of this blanket. So that's kind of what it looks like. And this row is a little bit crooked at the moment. I'm trying my absolute best to flatten it out as these rows get bigger. I'm trying my best to even it back out. But yeah, no, that's what it looks like at the moment at the end of episode 2. And I've only done 1 more row than what I did yesterday, because yesterday I did 4 rows. Today I've done 5 rows. But because this is a bigger stitch, it looks like I've done more rows, but I really haven't. I've only done 1 extra row. It looks like I've done more than 1. Like, it looks like I've done more than 1 extra row, but I haven't. I've just done 1 row. 1 more row extra. But because of the height, it looks taller. Which tomorrow I could possibly, and I'm really hoping it doesn't happen this early on into the blanket, but tomorrow I could possibly get a repeat. I'm hoping it doesn't, but this is what the chaos blanket is looking like at the end of episode 2. So come back tomorrow and find out what stitch and what colour I'm pulling out tomorrow, and how many rows I'll be doing of that colour.